All right. So here is our agenda. Thank you all for being here. We've just done welcome and celebrations and tech chaos. So we're finished with that. So everything should go smoothly now. A little bit about committee member update, although there's not a lot of information. Basically, I know that our list of folks that we've asked for third committee have been approved through the College of Ed. They've gotten signed off on several levels in the College of Ed, and they've moved to the university level. So I don't know how long it'll take at the university level, but at least we know it's making progress. So we will keep you updated as this goes along. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about the proposals. You may have already talked about some of this with your chair, and so it may be redundant, but it never hurts to hear it twice, I figure. The other thing is that everything that I say pretty much today is going to be available to you in your homeroom on Blackboard, so you can also go there and look for things. So the first couple of slides come straight from Blackboard. I'm just going to read you real quickly what it says, and then you'll be able to tell quickly when I start with my notes as well. So the faculty generally view the proposal defense as a coaching opportunity. During the defense, we'll discuss your study, ask you questions, and provide guidance. The intent is to provide you with final guidance as you transition to conducting your study. So you are moving from the more of the coursework. You still have a little bit of coursework left, but not much. Moving from the coursework into actually doing your own research. The qualifying examination, which is the other name for your proposal defense, provides the doctoral student opportunity to demonstrate appropriate progress toward achieving competence in the program. Through the examination, students demonstrate expertise in their area of study and readiness to advance to candidacy and do their dissertation work. Yay, this is so exciting. So the examination will be evaluated by a committee, which is typically comprised of at least 2 program faculty members and 1 outside, which is your third committee member, doctoral faculty member. A pass, so passing this requires agreement among a majority of the evaluators. If a doctoral student does not pass a portion of the exam or the entire exam, he or she will have 1 opportunity to take remedial action as determined by the readers of the exam. Successful completion of assigned remediation is required for advancement to candidacy. All right, so that was the official spiel, and now notes that I have for you. So what do you need to think about and plan? Well, step 1, you need to write a strong proposal. That would be chapters 1 through 3. That's what you're working on. And then decide with your chair when you're ready to defend your proposal. We're hoping that most of you are going to be proposing in January. I know we have a couple people who are hoping to maybe defend in December, and then a couple people who are looking at maybe at early February. But January is our main goal, so we're hoping for January. When you get to that point, when you've decided with your chair that you're ready, then you send your proposals, chapters 1 through 3, in a Word doc. And there's a template, and you're going to use that template. So make sure it's in the correct template, chapters 1 through 3. If you'd like, if you want to also have it in a Google Doc, you might also send a link to the Google Doc. Your committee may prefer one versus the other, but you do want to make sure that you send them a Word doc using the proper template. So you send that to the rest of your committee and CC your chair when you do that. And you're going to be in communication. This won't be a surprise to your chair. You need to discuss it with your chair first. Once you've done that, wait a couple days for the committee to have a chance to kind of skim the proposal. And then you're going to work with them to make sure that they think you're ready. Just from skimming it, they'll read it much more carefully later. And then to choose a date approximately 3 weeks after you provide the chapters. Your chair can help you with this. I think lots of times it's actually the chair who's in communication, at least with your second, about, are we good to go? Can we set a date and that sort of thing? So questions about this slide. And I can't see you because I'm in full screen share. So shout out your answer or your questions.
Hi, Donna. It's Randy.
Yes.
Um, I have a question about step 3. Um, it's not a question. I'm just thinking out loud here.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure I would want all. So sometimes with the proposal, members of the committee will want to make comments on the proposal that, and they could be of like 3 kinds. Comments that they just want to remember for the defense, comments that they want to send back to the chair, excuse me, yeah, to the chair, and then comments that they want to send to the student. But often everything they write can go to the student. I'm not so I'm not so sure how I feel about uh, member A seeing member B's comments while they're just reading. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
You're
this,
talking about the Google Doc question?
yeah, I'm sort of wondering about whether I'm not sure I would want students.
Well,
I kind of want people to read it separately and have their own thoughts and not be influenced by, another one of the readers while they're reading it.
right. Well, it's required that you send it in a Word doc using the proper template. Some people asked if they could also send a link to a Google Doc. And so that's an option. But if any member of the committee either doesn't want to use that, or as a chair, if you would rather that they didn't, they don't need to do that. That is completely optional and separate. But what they do have to do is send the proposals, chapter 1 through 3, in a Word doc using the proper template.
Yeah, and I guess I don't feel strongly about it, but I do recognize that it changes it a little. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that I would want to think about.
Yeah. Sounds good. Any other questions on this slide? All right. So as soon as you set the date, you need to send me the date, the title of your proposal, the list of committee members, and the emails, yours and all your committee members. And that's because there's some formal paperwork that has to be completed before you actually do your proposal defense. So you're working with your chair, you're sending stuff to the committee's saying, yeah, let's go ahead and set a date. You set a date, and then you send me this right away so that I can get the paperwork done so that you can actually do your proposal defense.
What would a title be?
Whatever the title is of your study. All right, what does the actual defense look like? So now it's 2 to 3 weeks or 4 weeks or however long it took you to set a date. You're on that, it's that day. Normally you would all go into a room together, but of course we're not doing that these days. So it'll be a Zoom room. So you'll be in a Zoom room. But before you do that, you're going to make sure that you send a reminder to your committee 12 to 24 hours before. Make sure that the Zoom link is in there. And I'm just going to say, I actually think there might be an advantage to having the chairs use their Zoom link, but I'm going to let you talk with your chair about whether students use their own Zoom link or whether the chairs use it. But whatever you decide on, you're going to send the Zoom link to your committee 12 to 24 hours ahead. And you're also going to include 2 graphic organizers. One of the graphic organizers is about your lit review. And one of the graphic organizers is about your chapter 3, your methods. The idea behind this is that they're sort of like little cheat sheets for the committee to be looking at and thinking about while you're presenting. And normally you'd be handing them the papers during the presentation. So it's a little weird in this case, but you're just going to send them these 2 graphic organizers. They should have some of the key points and things just to help kind of keep track of everything. They'll of course have your proposal and have read it already. But this is also nice for you because it's a nice organizing method for you to think about kind of what's the story you're telling and what are the key pieces. You don't want these 2 pages to be 2 pages full of texts. So think about figures, think about bullets, think about how you can tell the story in sort of a shortcut way just to help your committee while you're doing your presentation. The defense lasts usually about an hour, and your formal presentation is 20 minutes. And it's supposed to be pretty much exactly 20 minutes. So practice multiple times so that you stay right at about 20 minutes. Now, if it's 18 or it's 22, the world does not come to an end, but it shouldn't be 35 minutes. The idea is that it's about 20 because most of the time is going to be for questions.
And Donna, it's not, sorry, it's Angie. It's not chapter 1 because that already kind of is summarized in 2 and 3, right?
Right. Chapter 1 is sort of introduction, kind of a summary already. So it's really the lit review and the methods. All right, so let's talk for a minute about what those 20 minutes while you're presenting look like. You want to use a presentation tool, so slides, PowerPoint, whatever tool, if you're something you're using with your students that works really well for you, whatever works for you, whatever you're going to be comfortable with. You're going to remember that your committee has read the proposal. And so you want to only spend 5 to 7 minutes kind of setting the stage, telling the story about the literature and highlighting the gap in the literature and where your study fits in. So in other words, chapter 2 takes about 5 to 7 minutes. Chapter 3 takes 13 to 15 minutes. In other words, chapter 3 is the meat of your presentation. That's really where you want to spend your time. I had mentioned to a couple of people that you might want to present, that you present a little bit about your classes that you've taken and how they feed into what you're doing. If I told you that, scratch that, they've changed that. That's now part of the questioning process. So you may get some, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but it's not part of the presentation. So you're not presenting about your classes. You're presenting about chapters 2 and 3, 5 to 7 minutes on chapter 2, 13 to 15 minutes on chapter 3. After those 20 minutes, what happens? Well, then your committee asks you lots of questions. These questions may be on a variety of topics. The biggest one, though, because really what this is all about is your methods. What are you planning to do? How are you planning to collect data? How are you planning to analyze that data? What's your recruitment plan? How does this study fit into what we already know in the literature and what we're trying to learn? They might ask about any pilot work that you've done. They may now also ask about classes that have guided your research on thinking about educational leadership. So though that piece where I had mentioned to a couple of you that it might be in your presentation, now it belongs in this questioning piece. So they might ask you a little bit about, to talk a little bit about how the classes, that you've taken in this program have influenced your thinking, both your thinking about the research that you're about to do, and also the thinking that you've done just in regards to educational leadership as a whole, and the significance of your study for that. So how is all of this evaluated? Well, after those 20 minutes and after the questions and answers, your committee will move into a breakout room, which is one of the reasons I was thinking it might be easiest if you use the faculty members Zoom link. You move into a breakout room and they'll discuss the presentation and they'll discuss your answers to all the questions. If you were doing this in real life, you would be asked to step out into the hall. So this is the period where you would go stand in the hall and be like, oh, what are they talking about? Can I hear through the door? But in this case, we'll be in a breakout room. And then we'll ask you to come back into the room. And they'll likely have suggestions for you. So these may be things just to consider, or they may be required changes that you need to make. You should expect this. So just because they have suggestions for you, that doesn't mean that you didn't pass. So still pass and you have suggestions. That's completely typical and normal, and you should expect that. And then they use the rubrics on pages 34 and 36 of the handbook. And it's the rubrics that are used to determine whether or not you pass. I'm anticipating that none of us are going to put you forth if we don't think you're going to pass. So I don't think you need to have a nervous breakdown at this point. I think you're going to be fine. But you should look through the rubrics and be familiar with them. If for any reason you were to not pass, you do have an opportunity to remediate. I put up here, I know you can't see it. I can't even read it, but this is just a screenshot from one of the rubrics. And thank you, Lisa. And just to give you an idea, it's in the handbook. You can look through it. Just the only thing I wanted to say about it is the one that's for the written part, the one that's for the proposal, you're only looking at chapters 1, 2, and 3. They've just put in the entire rubric, and it's the same for the dissertation at the end, except that at that point it then has 5 stages, 5 chapters instead of just 3. And then the other rubric is for the presentation itself. So at your own leisure, spend some time looking at those. And remember, you know your proposal better than anyone else does, so you should breathe, you should relax, and you are going to be great. The other thing to be thinking about is just to be ready to submit for IRB. And you don't submit before, because if your committee has changes for you, then you'd have to go back in and make changes in IRB as well, most likely. So you do it, but ideally you do it right after, the day after you successfully defend your proposal, then you submit for IRB approval. So that's why we want you to have it ready and all set to go. And that leads us to our guest who is here. So I'm going to stop sharing. And Lisa, Lisa, can you hear me? Yes.
I can hear you, yes.
Do you want to, actually, why don't I'll just move over and let her know, and then I'll just bring her here instead of moving all of us over.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, hi.
Thank you for being here. We have about 3 faculty members or 4 faculty members and I don't know, roughly 10 students. Jean, did you just get here? Or have you been stuck waiting? Pardon me?
I just joined, yes.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm so glad. Okay. So we are recording. I'm going to move us into, you know what? I'm just going to move everybody back over here just in case. Pat, do you mind if we record your part as well, just for the folks who couldn't be here today?
Absolutely, it's perfectly fine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let me just move everybody here just to make sure that it gets recorded. I had told them we were coming to them, but I think it's better if they come here just to make sure. Wonderful. All made it back. Thank you. I am excited to introduce Pat Gordon, who is an analyst for our IRB here at San Diego State. And she has graciously agreed to answer questions, talk about common mistakes, all of those kinds of things to help us with this process. So let me just start by letting you know who's here. These folks are in the Ed Leadership doctoral program. Most of them will be defending their proposals in January-ish, around then, and would like to then submit to IRB shortly after that, and pretty much immediately after that. So they are already starting to think about what they need to do and look through all the requirements. So I don't know if Pat, if there's things that you'd like to start off by just telling us, or do you want to start with questions? I'm not quite sure what your preference is.
Sure. I guess, how many people have ever dealt with an IRB before? Just kind of raise your hand. All right. And great. Okay, so that's.
Well, Pat, you should know that they were all faculty who raised their hands.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing is that we follow a set of guidelines, as you know. How many people are all aware and all over the idea of like the city training. All right, good. And what our requirements are. And basically, you have two main requirements that this institution requires, the board requires. There are many courses to be taken in city training when you affiliate with SDSU, but those are requirements for different entities, not the IRB. So, so that's why I want to make it really clear. There's only two forms that certificates that we're looking for most people. We are looking for either a social behavioral or a medical, biomedical, human subject research certificate. And then we are also looking for the institutional, the information privacy and security certificate. Faculty sponsors that you designate as faculty / also a co-PI of your research because you are a student at SDSU, they need to take a third one. And the third one is human subjects faculty supplemental. So then you will have submitted, there's a couple of different ways to do that, but you would submit the certificates for yourself, for any other researchers, and then your faculty would have that extra one. So 3 things from the faculty. So that's just something that's done outside of the InfoEd system, and that I can direct you over to our website. How many people are aware of our website that's affiliated with the research? Right, okay. And my department is called now, it used to be called something else, but it's Research Support Services. And then the Research Support Services encompasses, like animals and biosafety and other parts of our, that we cover. And so the IRB is just one of those locations. We have a specific site, and it's our Human Research Protection Program site. So, and I find it very easily by just putting HRPP and a space, just HRPP, a space, and then SDSU, and it's pretty much what will pop up for you in any kind of search for us. So having said all of that, I want to tell you that I was going to focus today on kind of the easily, the foibles, the easy things of our system that, because it's not real friendly, it's not easy to identify or figure out where you are when you get there and what do you need to do after that. And so I'm really kind of doing a walkabout in our system. So does that sound good? Okay, that's what you're looking for. All right. So I'm going to, if someone will allow me to share screen, I will.
It should be open to share.
Okay, great. All right, so yeah. So I'm going to go with the general screen. Bear with me, and then I'll pull into what I'm looking at. So, all right, so I have landed on our webpage, and URL is infoed.sdsu.edu. And if this is your first time coming in, we don't keep tables of everybody who is above graduate level at the institution. We ask that first-time people click here to request their account. And then within 24 hours, you'll be receiving, once you submit the form, I'm going to click on it. Once you submit the form, then you will have access to InfoEd. And so it's just a SharePoint form that we get alerted to the fact that you've completed it. And then you save it, and then we come in and we look at it. Okay, so that's just really the first thing that could possibly happen, that you didn't have an account and you needed to create one. So now I'm going to, I don't know if it'll let me leave. Yeah, well, okay. So now I'm still in SharePoint. Okay, that's fine. I'll just start fresh. So I'll get myself back into the InfoEd front page. So all that's done. And now you're coming here to log in. And as you log in to InfoEd, you're going to see a whole lot of things today that are my, I have my access rights. You're going to be basically pretty fresh. Nothing's here, right? You don't have a list of many things. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to just show you my view from just my records. And I have started some studies myself. I'm going to start one right now. And you can see that they're just listed. We call this the temp number. And once you've been accepted and you're in past the intake, you'll get an HS number. And the HS number is pretty simple. It's just human subject dash the year 2020, then numerically when we set it up. So we're at about 301 right now. So that would be a typical number. So I'm going to start a protocol. You notice that SPIN is like the foundation side of things. So that's not where you want to go. But where you do want to go is you want to go into the human protocol choices, and you want to be able to create a new human protocol. And then this is a very big overview of, first, we're just going to start with your title of your project. And so title, oh, nice, of the project, right? And I just didn't do such a great job on title. So, okay. So title of the project and continue. And then it's generating, oh, I found you. Just confirmation of that. And here is your basic submission space. So you can see that the title's there, still not spelled correctly. It's okay. But I'm present, that would be there unless I change my PII at some point. You won't have necessarily as many of these things on the side. You might be able to view history on this side. But at any rate, what I want you to see is how to add supporting documents. And we consider supporting documents like your consents, your recruitment, different various documents, your surveys, your focus group guides, your interview guides. Those kind of things are placed up in support of the application. Then over here is the submit button, and it will take you through a couple of steps of, are you sure you really want to submit? So I'm going to go into this application. And this is pretty much your basic application. The demographics happen first. Who am I? I'm either a faculty or I'm a student. I'm going to put student in for today. Then a work phone number, an alternate phone number, probably pretty useful. If it's something you want me to find you during COVID, then please put in a phone number that would not be a university phone number, unless you're present at the university. And then we already have your SDSU email, so this would be an alternative if there was some reason why it was working or not. We just ask a very basic, do you have funding? If you do, is it internal or external? And you choose it. And then, okay, of the sources, is it federal, state, private, DOD, or other? I mean, Foundation has all of that anyhow, so we don't, it's not really a requirement just for our review, just that you have that kind of funding. Okay, the next section, which gets a little dicey, is personnel. And you can see that I'm listed here. End dates are meant to be used after the end date occurs. Even though you could list in a date, you're really supposed to, inform us if a project is continuing to put in an end date, because people, if you put in an end date, then they will be kind of removed from the view. They're not removed, but they're removed from the view, and that might be difficult for you to keep trying to put people in there, but then you're putting in an end date. All right, so don't put an end date in. I wanted to show for those doctoral students that this is the correct faculty advisor role that I was talking about. And so to add a faculty advisor, you select the plus sign, and then you choose a faculty person. Donna, are you in our list? Well,
Should be.
okay, let me see that. Okay, yeah, and so there's Donna, and then I would select Donna, and then I'd probably give Donna my start date too. We're in this together. And then I would designate her as my faculty advisor co-PI. The city training coursework may be embedded into the application. It's not a requirement. There are no asterisks here saying that it is a requirement. But it does become a requirement as soon as you say, yes, I'm going to embed one. So that's up to you. It's up to you how that's done. But we do want to know that who's going to be involved with the administration of the consent. And if your faculty advisor isn't, then you wouldn't check them.
Pat, if they wanted to embed them there, do they upload, would it be a PDF copy of our certificates?
Yeah, the certificates, I'm pretty sure, saved down as PDFs, but yes, the certificates as copies. And then another thing that is a little bit, that's my comment. You're seeing all my little pencils. That means I can comment on a particular field while I'm reviewing. But right here, if I was to, that's a little icon that means I want you to upload something, and then I'd browse and then I'd upload. Well, it replaces, it doesn't add, all right? So this is a big feature that doesn't have any explanation, that it replaces documents and doesn't add them. And so we suggest that you create your certificates, for like myself, I'd put in my human subject basic, and I'd put my certificate for my information privacy security together in a PDF, merging it. And then I'd take that document and I'd upload that single document. So this is the only place you can embed anything in the application. We also allow for other personnel, whether they're affiliated or not with us. Undergrads would go here if you have undergraduate researchers. If someone is involved, other than that, and pretty much we try to say if a person's not, has no real requirements to come in here and complete the application or revise it for you, then add them here. And then we have a different kind of table here where you just place in, their name, and then you give their email, you type in their email there, and then you select the role. And a lot of times they are either study personnel or co-investigator. If they're a co-PI, they probably really should be up above in, with access and stuff. So those are the kinds of, I'm demonstrating tables right now is what I'm showing you. The tables can also be removed. We're also designating for each person whether they'll be involved in consenting or not. And then I can trash it. You can also embed the city certificates for Samir or whomever right here, and it's the same thing. It would be replaced. It's only one single document. Okay, so now I'm down to the triaging of whether you're performing human subject research or not. And as you know, the regulations were recently revised and adopted in 2019. And so our definition of what is considered human subject research or what is not considered human subject research is defined above. And it says we have a lot of scholarly activity, we have a lot of journalistic activity, but that's not a regulatory, that research does not require regulatory review. We have a lot of public health surveillance and activities for the purposes of identifying and monitoring and assessing public health issues. Again, they do not fall in the purview. And then the collection and analysis of information, biospecimens or records by or for criminal justice or other authorized law or court orders. And again, that's not in our purview. But if you determine that your project is none of these, then you're asked the first question in our triage, which is, does your project involve a systematic investigation and is intended to develop or contribute to generalizable knowledge, such as publications, presentations at a conference? And we also include thesis, because at our institution, our master students may be principal investigators, and we have deemed it at our institution that they are contributing to generalizable knowledge. And so they would mark yes, and so will you if you come to this point. Then we ask the next question. Okay, great, you're doing that. Are you personally obtaining data about living individuals through interaction or through intervention with them? If you say no, then we give you a different kind of form. It's more retrospective, but we want to know about the data then. In the data, will any person on the study team have, receive, or possess any of the 18 HIPAA identifiers? And the list is provided for you, and you make your determination. If you would say, no, I don't have any of the identifiers, then you are done with the submission and it needs to be turned into us because you do not have human subject regulated research. So that's like the most quiet kind of, you'd receive a notification from us that you have not human subject research. However, I'm going to go back to yes, I am going to interact. I'm going to have surveys, so I'm interacting with them. And I'll carry some identifiable information. I'd like their names, I'd like their emails, I might like their zip code, I might like some other things from the survey. Or I'm going to do surveys plus some qualitative interviews. And so I will have their video and voice recordings. So any multiple choices of what's here, you would just be saying yes to question 3 because it's opening up other smart form questions. We have to ask everyone about whether your research is contributing to medical or behavioral outcomes, that it's an improvement for participants, and also involves one or more human individuals with procedures that it would be considered a clinical trial, and you would either answer yes or you would answer no based on what's true. Most applications are no, but we have quite a few that are yes. And then we really want to know about cancer because we have a special working relationship with Morris Cancer Center, and we have to identify those things that have to go through the Morris Cancer Center Review Committee, Protocol Review Committee. So if those aren't the cases for you, then you mark those no. It's probably a good saving point in the application. And then from question 3, we have a section now, what are the identifiers you're choosing? And this is a different kind of table building. With this table, we have a drop-down menu. And so I said, I had mentioned names. I won't be accessing them. I'll be actually recording them once they're given to me, or I might access and record. Disclosing would be persons other than the researchers themselves, or so you wouldn't necessarily include that. And then, okay, I'm not just going to use names. Like I said before, I'm going to use emails. And so I'm gathering those. And I said I was going to use voice or any other kind of identifier. And so then I'd search through the list. So I think you get the idea here of what I'm doing. So that's how that table works. Then, now we get into the free text fields. And my first advice is read the question, understand the full scope of what the question's asking for, and answer the question. This is an application. This is not a protocol. Please give us, as a protocol, much explanation regarding this kind of information, but provide it as a supporting document. Here we really want to know who are they and how are these members, research members of your team, going to facilitate your research? What is their contributions? Those kinds of things is what we're looking for in that first field.
Kat, may I ask a couple of questions?
Please.
So I noticed that you checked only recording for in the table when you were talking about the different types of things that you were collecting. Would accessing, I guess I'm not quite sure what accessing is.
Okay, it could be accessing. Wow, there's so many ways of accessing, right? But if you had a prospective, intended prospective, purposive, there we go, that's the word I was looking for, purposive sample that you knew, the National Association of XYZ, and so you were going and accessing that information, then you would say that. And if you had a way of knowing email addresses, you would select that. So that's why I'm saying
But it's possible to record without, I mean, I guess my question was, I was thinking that you couldn't record if you hadn't always accessed something, but just by getting them through, it depends on how you obtain the participants, is that right?
Yes, it is. It's related to your recruiting plan. So if you have a third party who sends out your recruitment on your behalf, then accessing wouldn't be true because you didn't access the information. Only participants who came to you and told you, I'm interested in your project.
Okay.
So then you're recording it. Yeah. Okay, great question.
The next one was for investigator experience for the they're to put in as a COPI their advisor. Can they just list that it's their graduate advisor, or do you need more information about the faculty member?
We need proof that the faculty is the right choice. So their expertise in the discipline and the research area, the type of methods that are going to be used, makes sense that they are the appropriate faculty.
Okay, so more detail then.
More detail.
Thank you.
Okay. Conflict of interest, those are our standard institutional rules. It's either yes or no. It's probably no. I'm just going to go with the most oftenly chosen. And then, okay, this is where things kind of get way beyond what we're requesting. When we say discuss relevant background and information and literature review. Discuss them with the intention of what did you learn that provided the rationale for your proposed research. So that, don't go into methods. We don't want the methods. We just want to learn what's the background and why, you know, what isn't already known, or how are you looking at this information in a new way. That's what that submission section's for. And then the list of references
I'm
pertinent
sorry.
to.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, absolutely. Please. Oh, by the way, please do ask questions because I'll just keep going.
As I was looking through this, I guess I was wondering, because I don't have like an example, would it be like I'm writing 250 words to answer the background info stuff, or is it like 700 words? Is there like a idea for me to know how much detail I'm supposed to provide? Do you know what I mean? I know that's probably a hard question to answer. Sorry.
Yeah, it is kind of hard because you kind of have to give me or us enough information about what led you to do this, and in a succinct manner. What led you to this in a succinct manner? And that's why I reinforce that with please feel free to have an actual protocol that discusses these in more detail. And you might run out of space. And when you do run out of space, back up, not the whole thing out. Don't say, look at the protocol, but back up until you can write the statement of discussion continues in the supporting document, study protocol, you know? So we want to get enough, it really is frustrating for our board members too. We want to get enough detail in here that they get a really good, you know, pretty much bird's eye view maybe, but with some richness in the bird's eye view. Okay. That they really kind of have an understanding of what you're thinking about, and then you can really go to town on your supporting document. And the list of references, really, I know you're going to have a huge bibliography, but here we want to have a reference list that probably is related specifically to the discussion of the background and significance, you know, so. And then this abstract. Okay, so this abstract came around because we used to just say, give us your abstract and have a nice day, okay? And we found out, well, abstracts were were lacking the purpose objective stated just boom. You know, the purpose of this project is to do the following. It might be 2 sentences, okay? And then the methods. We are employing both a qualitative and quantitative analysis of X, Y, and Z, okay? All right, so. And then subjects, you'll describe them. You know, what is your prospect? What is your pleasure? What are they going to be adults? Are they going to be children? Are they going to be a mix of children and adults? That kind of thing. Planned analysis, here you go. Again, you're announcing the kinds of analysis that you will use on the various parts, right? What analysis for your surveys, what analysis for your interviews, and other things. What retrospective analysis are you doing? So what, if this was something that you were using data that's already in existence, but you're also going to go check on it or something, that might be an important feature to talk about. Potential benefits, obviously that's for the participants. There might be no potential benefits. And then for science and society in general. So it can be not applicable to, especially surveys can be, you know, out of the goodness of, out of a participant's heart that they completed your survey for you. So potential risks, they are always, we have risks, they're always, you notice me stressing, they're always, okay. I'm not having an argument with you, so I get to use the word always, okay, so they are always at least the loss of privacy and the breach of confidentiality. So there can be others, very discomfort, a big discomfort, a temporary discomfort, a possible long-term discomfort, those kinds of things. Risk management procedures. Voluntariness is not a risk management. That's a very important key to research. You must allow for it to be autonomous and voluntary. What risk management's really talking about is how do you protect the data that you have out of that survey? How do you protect it the whole time? Or how are you protecting the Zoom meeting? Or how are you protecting, that's what we're doing. Or how are you protecting the recordings that you have taken? The paper documents of anything that you've taken, those are the risk management procedures. Is it encrypted? Are there passwords? All that kind of stuff. So then now we're
Pat,
at, yes.
So a lot of, given the current, hi, I'm Randy, sorry. Given the current situation of our world, a lot of these data will probably be collected on Zoom.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
In the form of interviews.
Yes.
And presumably they'll be taped and
Yes.
people will put them in the cloud so that they can get transcripts. Is there any problem with that kind of storage?
Yes and no. That storage is perfectly fine as long as it is maybe behind a kind of descriptors I might use. It's behind a firewall. It is SDSU protected behind a firewall. It is, it got some particular kind of encoding, and passwords are required in order to use it. Okay.
And in case you all didn't know, you can have passwords on your SDSU Zoom cloud recordings. You can require, there's a setting for it. You can require a password.
Yes. So, you can also, Zoom's great in that you can also get transcripts produced after the meeting from the recordings too. So that's kind of a wonderful thing that you can also manage and handle.
Pat, before we go on, the other question that just came up was, as you're working through this, you can work on part of it and save it and then come back to it, right?
Oh, yes. Always make sure, and it, since so many of us are having Wi-Fi issues, maybe, right? You might want to save every time you're done with a field. It does pop you up to the top. And so I guess I'll take a minute and show you some features of that. So this is the entirety of your application as you triaged it with questions 1, 2, and 3, okay? But if you want to see just one section, and so I'm done with study personnel, but I mean, if you are fully aware of where you would be going, then you could pop in like that. But when you pop into page by page, the way please don't forget that there might be jumps in such a way that you miss stuff. So then you really want to make sure that you go back to all pages again. So that's all I'm saying. Okay, so that's what that Garfield color area up in the thing is. And also note that I can close and print, and form history is really great, but not when you have just your first submission. That's the only reason why we really bought this system, is because form history, when you submit it to us, it's kind of like, it's been checked complete. And so we can track in this, it's a tracking feature is what it is. So that when we ask for changes, and then the second time it comes back, we can say a to from situation. So when I pop this up, when I get another line in here, I can click the radio button, show me the changes between the past and the now, right? Past and the now. So I said it doesn't show really good now, but then we get this nice side-by-side thing, and we can see what you kept, what you deleted, and what you added. So you can use it too. So I mean, it's just a nice little feature. All right. So I've gotten all the way down to, but you did catch how the abstract is very abstract-like, very short and sweet, but to the point. The research design and methods, again, we really want that kind of clarity in the same way, in that we want to know, what are your specific aims or goals? And if you have hypotheses, what might they be for each of them? That's what that field is for. Here is the field about everything that you'll do as getting to get your answers. So that's why we've tried to say things like, we want you to talk about who you contacted to help you with recruitment, how you're going to use them to help you with the recruitment. So that's all called recruitment strategy. We want to have a little paragraph about recruitment strategy with enough detail for us to determine if it is a safe method or of handling people's information. Then I do want to tell you that we have a quick caveat that anybody using Snowball, just say yes. Anybody using a Snowball sampling? Okay.
At least one there.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So one person is using it. Okay. We kind of return those back if it's not an opt-in scenario, because the board has really felt that really reduces the amount of complaints that we could potentially receive when you've gotten information from a participant because you said, hey, do you know any other deck builders, right? I'd like to get their names so that I can contact them about my research. That's opting out, because when you contact them, then your conversation is, hi, I'm Pat Gordon. I'm doing a research study on how decks are made. And I got your information from Sammy, Sammy, right? Yeah, that's opt out, okay? To avoid that, we prefer opt in. So when Sammy's done with his tasks, we say, Tammy, we have some information here for you. It's a half-page flyer. It's an electronic email. It's my contact information. If you know anyone who you feel would be interested in my project, would you please send them my information? And then when they email you or call you, they've opted in to hearing more. So just a little caveat that I spend a lot of time on. So data collection and analysis. So that's everything. Now we use this field to know the rationale for why is your study population adults only or children only, and then the description of your statistical significance or your qualitative analysis practices. Why is this number enough to get your answers that you want? The criteria, inclusion and exclusion. And if it doesn't seem to be very fair, the rationale why your inclusion is as it is, and you've excluded others. And then subject recruitment, these are the types of subject recruitment. So we kind of expect that if you're doing it in person, that there might be some kind of recruitment script that you use with them. If there's a flyer, we're going to want to see a supporting document that's called the flyer. If it is a third-party referral, then we might also see that you have an email. You can see how, as you have various recruitment plans, it's just being checked here. This is just for us to know when something's not available to be reviewed. It's really, okay. Then subject screening. A lot of people think, oh yeah, I'm going to screen people, but this is more about, do you have a process that's actually the subject screening? Do you have a document? Do you have a checklist for it? Are you going to use a phone when you do it? That's all possibilities. Then we're here, like, how are you going to do that? It'd be, any of the possible or other, we allow for other too. And then all of them ask you, when it's true, will you obtain consent? But it's, will you be obtaining consent for the survey process alone? Not the main consent of the study, just the survey consent. And so if you say yes, then you'll explain how. But if you say no, then you'll explain, well, why not? Okay, so you get, but if none of this is true, you're not screening really, other than obtaining their information in some way in a recruitment, then the section is totally complete with not applicable. You're just not using a screening thing per se. You might double check as you're in your consenting process, but you're not screening people. Then we want to know about what you feel your expectations are in a table, because we really want to know the name of the task, like taking a survey, a brief description. They'll be going online. It'll be confidential, and then it'll be stripped of identifiers, and then the time. And you can see that these times are big chunk of time. We don't really care that it is 0 to 5 hours. We don't care that it was 2.5, and oh no, it was really 1. We just kind of want a range of, is that reasonable for what your task is? That's all that's for. And then if you go, oh, I don't like that one at all, then you can delete it and then start it. The research interviews, really, this level is, we're trying to find out, number one, is it publicly available? Like, what we mean is, we really mean, is it also you are at a point with whatever this instrument it is, that you developed it and it is truly publicly available. It's vetted, okay? Or it was peer approved. That's all we're trying to get here about the documents that you're using. And quite frankly, it's really for scrutinizing, okay? If you're in the area of psychology, it'd be all about these psychological tests, and is this test really the most appropriate in this day and age to be using? So that's the purpose of that. So generally, the instruments for the research, the surveys, the interview guides, the focus group guides are generally PI developed and privately available. Research setting, really, this is, again, it's all about just how are you protecting their safety and privacy concerns. And like someone mentioned that, we're the Zoom environment. So it would be, a very protective, Zoom environment where passwords are going to be used to quit Zoom bombing, that kind of thing. Then we want to know a little bit more about countries. Will you be in a foreign country, traveling to one? Pretty much not for a lot of people right now. And then our payment incentives. So there can be incentives that aren't cash. And I need to take a drink. So. Very few compensations. That would be based on maybe hourly time. But gift cards are used very often right now in our environment. Cash is used less. That's much more on a face-to-face basis. Okay, I want to talk about drawings. So according to California law, drawings cannot be, it is illegal to say you're going to have a raffle with, or a drawing without having it open to anyone. All may enter. And so you have to figure out the odds of winning and rules. And the kinds of things I try to suggest to researchers with drawings is that you have a way, for example, that it's posted somewhere publicly, and then you have a way where you'll say a limiting feature of it, like anyone can enter between now and December 31st. Okay. That gets hard because sometimes these applications take a while. So you might tell us something more to the effect of anyone can just send the researchers an email and you will be entered into the drawing. The drawing will be open for 6 weeks once enrollment begins, something like that. So it's much more moves with when you start versus you gave an end date and it was a wrong end date. Dates, we hold that as non-compliance if you don't do it, in time for what you set up in the application as a date. I don't recommend that you give us dates. You give us, like I said, the quality of when you would stop.
I've got a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no.
My name's Mike.
Hey, Mike.
And my question is, not the drawing, but let's say you did an incentive with a gift card and you said that the first 30 that would be turned in or whatever, and you kept, account of that. Would that be that would be legit? And that's my first question. My second question, if you did that and you're thinking about how do you separate privacy and phone numbers if you're going to have to send a gift card, just in general, does that have to be gone through the IRB process as well? So
You're going to inform us of how you'll do it.
okay.
Let me address your first question. According to the Belmont report, which is what all of our human subject research regulations is founded on, that would not be an equitable situation where persons who have done the same amount of effort or tasks or risks are not awarded when other people are. So we would stop you on that concept at the first 30. We understand that you would like to have a certain amount of people and that would have maybe moved people to do it sooner than later to get data built in faster for you and what your needs are. But we have to consider the participants, and that would be considered unfair, and it might be even considered slightly coercive. And your procedures have to be free of those things.
Wow. Okay. So just to clarify, so that using a gift card, you got to be really, really careful. If you get 700 responses back, then you're committed there.
And you shouldn't have done that.
Right.
Okay. And the reason, no, what I mean is probably you get approved when I'm going to slide back up to participant numbers. Okay. This number that you put in is you are non-compliance as soon as you go over it. So you have to be aware of how many people have responded and shut it down.
Yeah.
If it happens in 24 hours and you only needed 125 or 250 and you are getting beyond that, you have to shut it down.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
you're welcome. In fact, we just started dealing with, and then that goes into bad data too. You might want to topically talk about bad data, how you can construct, not here, not now, but how you construct surveys in such a way that participants are gaming the system. So we had a situation where they were given a pretty good amount of money to a person for completing these surveys. It was probably above $30, okay, for doing it. Pretty significant piece of, of money. And so they were absolutely getting data where it was obvious that some of the surveys were completed in a minute. Some surveys were completed in 3 minutes. A person had gone through and basically made an email, gave their email, and then went not applicable for the rest of the thing. You know what I mean? So you want the incentive to be on par with what their expectations are. Like $1 or something. You know what I mean? So you don't want to attract the wrong kind of people. So then the proration, is, again, now you can build in projects where you're really trying to get people to return to visits, right? And so this is really all about that kind of idea, that you prorate that a person's going to end up with $75 for whatever reason, and you tell them various number of things. When you complete visit 1, we'll give you $25, you know. When you can complete visit 2, we'll, you know, divide the $50 and you'll get another $25. And then, but you might up it a little bit for the third one because you really want them to come back for the last visit. So it wasn't going to be $75, but then you tell them on the last visit, you're going to give another $10 on top of that. So they'll get $35 if they come back for the final visit. Those are the kinds of things that would be, you know, prorated over time. So then, okay. So I'm down into this consent area, and nothing's going to be embedded here. You're not going to add your consent into this section, but you're going to give us the types. And so it could be comprehensive. The survey itself could be a waiver of documentation. We can talk about that. You can see I've got some regs that just popped up for that. Generally, it's doable through electronic signing and Zoom, that you can get a comprehensive written signature for your consents. But if you're also doing surveys, that if it's not sensitive, then number 2 is if it's not sensitive and you wouldn't ordinarily collect it, then you could waive documentation. But in number 1, it's so sensitive that you don't want to collect it, then you may be selecting this. I have to say that we do have in our template that optional signature block for consenting, and that's to satisfy the regulations of 1, which is that each subject will be asked whether they want to document their by signing the consent form or not, and their wishes will govern. So so we did supply with an alternate or optional signature block. This part, the next section, is about potential benefits. We kind of talked about it above, but we asked for it. This is like the real place in the application where it's being asked, and you can say whether it's direct or whether it's indirect and give us our rationale for why the benefits, in your opinion, is that. And then, and so you'll notice that this first block is about the participants themselves, and the next question is about society, you know, to society.
Pat, this might be a silly question, but I'm not 100% sure what indirect means.
Okay, well, talk about that in your, you know, amongst yourself kind of thing, because they do vary, but I would generally say, if I was complete, it's kind of like taking a test, you know, if you ever take any kind of courses about the construction of testing, and you can give a whole lot of answers to a whole lot of things, just as how you constructed the test, you know what I mean? Because you're asking in different ways. But anyway, let's say, you know, pick a topic. Your research topic, just pick a research topic. It doesn't matter. Okay, so we want to pick a topic, but if they get informed, if what you've done informs them about your topic in some way, just because they went through it, okay, that might be a benefit for them. Of other things, it's like of sensitive nature, and it was talked about, and they felt so much better because they finally had somebody they could talk to about it, right? That's an indirect benefit. The direct benefits are kind of like, you know, for right now, you tested a vaccine and it actually worked. Okay, that would be a direct benefit. So,
thank you.
all right. And so that's true for society too. Okay.
I'm looking at the time and I realize that we're already at 4:30.
Okay. Oh, wow, that went fast.
It did. And I want to be sensitive to everybody's time, but I'm wondering if I think this is a lot of information, and I'm wondering if what might be good is for everybody to, go and spend some time looking at it, thinking about their own answers for what they're going to do. And I'm wondering if we could invite you back maybe next month.
Yeah, that
when
sounds
they
like a great
try.
idea. That sounds like a really good idea. So
Okay.
yeah,
Does
I'm
anybody have
happy to do that.
anybody have any like burning questions for her right now?
I just want to, did I tell you about the HRPP website? Yeah, just go there with HRPP and then IRB, SDSU, excuse me, and look in our forms. You can find the kind of templates we have there, and look under training. You can find out how quickly to get to city training. So, oh, I'm sorry, guys. I was really expecting this to be more question and answer, but I felt that given this group that you really wanted to see how the application really works. And I know that we don't have any, when we first rolled out InfoEd, we did a lot of training, like 101, what's the system like? And we don't do that. So I think it really will benefit you in the long run that you saw this kind of training first, but I'm very happy to come back because I'm excited to hear more about what you're doing. It'll be more fun for me. So,
Yeah, and we're getting comments in here that this was really helpful, and that at this point probably more helpful than question and answer. But I think once they've started and gotten some of their own stuff in, then we'll probably have lots of questions. So I'm very grateful that you're willing to come back, and also that you're willing
absolutely.
to spend time with us in Thanksgiving week. So
Yes. So, I really enjoyed it. I didn't learn anything about you all, but I'm looking forward to learning some things about you all. So that'd be great. So,
Lisa, did you want to ask your question now, or do you want to wait?
Well, I think several people are doing something similar. So I just wanted to check in about this request for waiver of documentation, because some people are doing a survey that they don't need to put their names on, but they'd like to use the survey to get a small number of people to interview or to follow up with in some way. And I'm wondering if that would be a place where that request for waiver of documentation would come in, where they would only give you their name if they're willing to follow up, and then they'd need further consent. Like, I assume that happens a lot. And I'm wondering kind of what the process.
okay. I want to try to answer it by viewing it maybe from a different perspective, like maybe how I would view it. And it sounds true that you want to have a consent that you make that's almost an anonymous consent unless the outcome is that they're going to give you their information. So, and so that is a waiver of documentation. And so you do also check that selection that was, will you have a screening survey or checklist, right? And then in there, when I said, will you obtain consent? That's what you want to do. You want to also say, yes, and I am going, I do want to obtain consent, but you don't want to consent them to the main study. You just want, and that is exactly what that section is for, is you want to consent them to interact with them about finding out whether they fit the criteria of the project. And that then that consent says things like, if you do fit and you agree to be a participant of the study, then we will go through a consenting process with you and keep your data that you gave us today to contact you to do the next step. If we find out that you unfortunately didn't fit or you are not interested, I want you to know that all your data will be destroyed. And there will be no evidence that we had the conversation. So, or there might be a little bit of evidence that that we did talk, and you selected no, and then you're building a list of no, right? These people don't contact them. why you do that is because your screening doesn't impact that number you got approved for. So let's say you had 300 participants, you could screen 800 to get to your 300 because you had a special consent for that process.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'll let you go and we'll see you next month.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye, everybody.